UFC 322 is officially over. Islam Makhachev is your new UFC welterweight champion, which means he has just hit GOAT status, and the fights are only going to get bigger. A lot of people want to see Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. I would love to see that matchup, but I'm trying to be optimistic, and I don't think the UFC wants to go that route. I think that they like Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria in separate weight classes. And because Islam Makhachev is in the welterweight division and there's so many killers in that division, I don't think the UFC wants to put that division on pause just to do Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. Unless the UFC thinks Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev is going to be bigger than Khabib and Conor, I don't think they're really going to stop that division and pause all of these matchups and pause the division just to do that one matchup, this one-off fight, you know? So with that being said, I think Islam Makhachev's next fight, his first title defense, will be Ian Gary. If Ian Gary beats Belal Muhammad next weekend, I think that's who he fights next. Ian Gary is ranked number 6. He's coming off that Carlos Prates win, which is a great win looking back now. And if he beats Belal Muhammad, he will now be the number 1 contender. And I think that's a good matchup for Islam Makhachev. Ian Gary has a name. He'll be the number 1 contender. It's a fresh matchup. And honestly, I think Islam Makhachev doesn't really care about who he is fighting next. He just wants to stack up the wins now in the welterweight division and kind of solidify that GOAT status. I think Islam beating Jack Della Maddalena just proved he can pretty much beat anybody in the welterweight division. Because in my opinion, JDM was the best welterweight. Like he was the guy. And how he beat Belal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns, I think Islam Makhachev, how he manhandled Jack Della Maddalena, he can do that to any contender. So I think the next fight for Islam Makhachev is Ian Gary if he beats Belal Muhammad. If Belal Muhammad somehow beats Ian Gary next weekend, then you do Belal Muhammad versus Kamaru Usman for the number 1 contender, and the winner fights Islam Makhachev. The alternate for that would be Michael Morales versus Shavkat Rakhmonov for the number 1 contender, and they get a title shot, and then that would give Islam Makhachev some time off, to settle down and kind of get things going. Michael Morales didn't take any damage against Sean Brady, so he could step in at the beginning of the year for Shavkat Rakhmonov and kind of get that division going. However, if Ian Gary beats Belal Muhammad, he's next for Islam. Then on the same card, you would do Michael Morales versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. And an alternate to that fight, you could do Carlos Prates versus Kamaru Usman. Carlos Prates didn't take any damage against Leon Edwards, and if he beats someone like Kamaru Usman, that would just solidify him in the division as a top 3 guy. Beating Leon Edwards already puts him in that position, but when you beat someone like Kamaru Usman, then it solidifies you as, oh, you're a real threat. You're a danger in this division. And I think that'd be a fun matchup. Another fun fight I would like to see, some alternate fights. Jack Della Maddalena versus Gabriel Bonfim. That would be a fun fight. Jack Della Maddalena just lost to Islam. And fighting someone like Gabriel Bonfim, someone who's lower in the rankings, would maybe relight that fire that he once had. I think another fun fight you could do, Sean Brady, he just lost to Michael Morales, versus Joaquin Buckley. Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley. Fun matchup. It would be exciting. And I think that would be, an interesting matchup for Sean Brady. Another fun fight you could do at the White House, and I think this would be a huge fight for the UFC, Leon Edwards versus Jorge Masvidal. They've had some beef in the past. 3-piece in a soda. We all know it. Jorge Masvidal bloodied up Leon Edwards after Jorge knocked out Darren Till. So that would be some fun fights. But the whole point of this video is what's next for Islam Makhachev. I don't think they're going to go the Ilia Topuria route. I just don't see the UFC giving Ilia Topuria that chance. Now, if Islam Makhachev goes to the UFC and says, I want Ilia Topuria, I'm not fighting nobody else, I won't defend my belt until I get that Ilia Topuria matchup, I think maybe then they would do it, but it would only be if Ilia Topuria defends his belt, because I don't think they're going to want Ilia Topuria to win the lightweight belt and then just drop it or put it on pause to go have this one-off fight with Islam Makhachev. So let's say next weekend Arman Tsarukyan beats Dan Hooker, then you could run Ilia Topuria versus Arman Tsarukyan. Then if Ilia Topuria beats Arman, you do Islam versus Ilia as a super fight, the biggest fight in the UFC, all that. I still think it's not going to happen. I would love to be optimistic, but because Islam moved up and there are so many good fighters in the welterweight division, I don't think there's a problem doing Islam versus Ian Gary. I think there's a storyline right there. I think it would be a fun fight, a fun matchup. Ian Gary has some grappling, good takedown defense. His striking is good. He's a tall, lanky fighter. I mean, he can't do worse than what JDM just did. And let's say Islam Makhachev runs through Ian Gary. That's fine. Put Michael Morales versus Shavkat up next. Whoever wins that matchup, let's say Michael Morales knocks out Shavkat or Shavkat submits Michael Morales. Islam versus Shavkat. That'd be a fun, interesting matchup. And these are big, quality names for Islam Makhachev. Having someone like JDM on your resume and then Ian Gary and then Shavkat, maybe Kamaru Usman or Carlos Prates, those are big names. I think that's contributing more to your resume, having 4 or 5 of these names in the welterweight division than someone like Ilia Topuria. I like Islam Makhachev. I think he is a great fighter, but I don't really think it helps his legacy if he beats someone like Ilia Topuria. I think if he defends his belt against Ian Gary, then defends it against Shavkat, then Kamaru Usman, that means more and that's bigger for his career as GOAT status. That puts him at number 1 than having just Ilia Topuria. So I think that's what's going to happen next. The UFC hates doing this, jumping divisions, moving guys around, unless you're going to make them a crap ton of money. And I just don't see Islam versus Ilia being bigger than what Conor and Khabib was. Unless Ilia Topuria throws, a dolly and hits Islam, they're not going to run that fight. So Islam Makhachev versus Ian Gary, alternative number 1 contender, Michael Morales, Shavkat, and then you do Kamaru Usman, Carlos Prates. That's what I'm thinking. That's my matchmaking of the welterweight division. Let me know what you guys think. Comment who you want to see Islam Makhachev fight next. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next video.